If you can keep on driving forward and keep on saying, right, I can do this, you will do it. I was the second ever guy from my unit get in the SAS. Many people went for it, but they come back with horror stories. You can sense fear because you're all in the back of a vehicle. It doesn't just smell of the normal sweat. It's a bit different when, I think the pause were breathing out like fear, you know what I mean? And you can see it in people's faces and eyes. I've never been as scared in my life. The stuff I've done and the near misses I've had, and you know you're going on missions and you know there's a good likelihood that you're going to take casualties and so on. But that didn't really bother me. What really scared me more than any missions I've ever been on, I've never been as scared as that. If you fit and your body's still going, it's in the mind. You can still do it. You think you're putting 100%, you can't do any more. You can keep on trugging on. Say David Stirling's ethos is classlessness, humility, integrity, pursuit of excellence, and a sense of humour. Do you want to have a look at my flag?
Yeah.
I actually grew up in Stoke-on-Trent, and at the time it was the largest council housing estate in Europe. Well, when it was built in the 50s, and when I was growing up, that was 64 still. Because I actually Googled it, on its state, it was something like over 11,000 people there.
Oh, wow.
And it's just a big council housing estate.
Yeah.
But on there was like literally an handful of ethnic people. There was like me, one other black family, and an Indian family, and that was it. There it is now. That's a good. And there's my flag. And it's got the three things what I'm most passionate about in life, apart from my family. So that is my football team, Stoke City, the Potters, the mighty Potters. And then it's got the poppy, because obviously being ex-military, but just not ex-military, you know, I love the military and everything about it. And then my country. My name's Melvyn Downs. I'm an ex-sergeant major in the British SAS. I did 24 years in the British military, 12 in the SAS. Well, I was born in 1964, so like I'm 60 years old now. And I actually grew up in a massive council estate. At the time, it was the largest council estate in Europe. It was called Bentley. I can count on one hand out of about 11,000 people on that estate, how many people were from an ethnic background. That on its own created a lot of problems when I was growing up. My school days consisted of just waiting to get out of this school. And it was either get out the back gate, get out the front gate, climb over 6-foot railings over the sports pitches or the other side and get over 6-foot railings that side. And there was a main road. So I was always trying to find an escape routes. And the reason being, there'd be people waiting for me to want to fight me or just to, you know, mess me about and everything and chase me home and call me names. To me now, even thinking about it, I'll still get the goose pimples. I'll still get scared from that particular moment. And this was as a young kid, 6, 7 years old, getting chased by bullies. And they were only the same year as me, or some of them older. Yeah, to me though, there was nothing being as scared. I've never been as scared in my life as that young kid. And it's amazing, isn't it? You know, the amount of combat and firefights and the stuff I've done and the near misses I've had. And you know you're going on missions and you know there's a good likelihood that you're going to take casualties and so on. But that didn't really bother me as much as it did as a kid growing up. This was going on for about a year. And it was just so happened that one time I'm running home and my dad's outside because he was a miner and the shifts he was on, he was at home or he wasn't sleeping that night or whatever that day. So he was outside having a cigarette. And I remember seeing my dad, and it was about 70 meters from home. So I thought, my savior, and I started shouting my dad. And these kids stopped behind me. And I thought, great, I'm rescued. And he said, what's going on? And I told him this has been going on, this bullying's been going on for about a year, and so on. And he goes, well, okay, go fight them. I'm like, you what, Dad? And he goes, go fight them. He goes, you've got to stand up for yourself. I always remember walking towards these kids. These kids were wondering what's going on. And I'm turning around looking at my dad. And I ended up going and facing him, and then he just started playing around with me, pushing me, and before you know it, we started fighting. And that's one thing he said. He goes, leave a mark, do anything, bite them. I'm not promoting the violence, but I remember fighting, and then I bit one of them, and he squealed. And then after that, the bullying sort of stopped, because it's not worth fighting him or bullying him, because he's going to turn on you. Even though they'd end up getting the upper hand, I would still turn on him. And then he called me, and I remember that his face when he was talking to me about it, and you know, he nearly had tears in his eyes. He was just saying, well done. He goes, you've got to always stand up for yourself. He goes, because if you run, you'll always be running. The odd stuff I went through as a kid growing up on my estate, it just made me more resilient and, to me, a stronger person. So I could thank anybody who was being a bully towards me. I take people as people, and that's what my dad taught me. You know, a good person's a good person, a bad one's a bad one. You just crack on with what you want and just stand up for yourself. I remember it was Tripping the Colour one time on a black and white TV, and my dad used to make me stand up whenever he heard the national anthem come on, because it used to come on the TV when the TV used to go off of the night, and if I ever had a late night, he let me stay up late. Whenever the national anthem would come on a British TV, he'd make me stand up. But something like Tripping the Colour, obviously the national anthem was played on that, and we was watching it during the day, and my dad would make me stand up, and he would be proud, because he's a proud Jamaican, but he's proud of being British. And it's just that, watching all the troops marching by and everything, I thought, right, I want some of that. And so all I did then is like, right, how do I get in the army? And we had something called the Army Cadets. So you could join from 13 years old and you got your uniform. But I joined at 11 years old. They let me come, and I was marching around in a jean bottoms and a Wrangler jacket. That was my uniform, because you weren't allowed a uniform until you were 13. And then you was a proper cadet. So I got the uniform at 13, and I just loved it. You know, everything about it, because you were firing rifles, you were learning stuff like first aid and navigation. And to me, it made sense, because why am I learning about moon rock and geology and all the science, whereas being in the Army Cadets, I'm learning how to survive off the land. I'm learning navigation. I'm learning first aid. And that to me is life skills. I'm thought, wow, this is great. I want to carry on doing this. So I always wanted to go in the military. So as soon as I was 16, I applied for the military, and I got in as a boy soldier 2 weeks after leaving school. I got to the rank of Junior Sergeant Major, which was good. And then from there, I went to my parent unit, which is your adult unit. And then you're ready to go on operations and be a fully qualified soldier. Now this is 1984, and it was quite a dangerous area, South Armagh, because it was known as bandit country. For instance, the area around Crossmaglen, the small village in Northern Ireland, at the time, more British soldiers had died in this couple of square kilometres around that area than anywhere else since the Second World War. You're living in this compound, and you're flying out to an area, and you're just doing these observation posts or patrolling the area, stopping vehicles and doing checks and so on. But this area, 99% of people hated you there. You could just see the venom in their eyes. They just really didn't like you being there. And I remember one time they saw me, and I was on patrol, and he goes, "Soldier boy, what are you doing here?" I says, "I'm just doing my job." And he goes, "No, you in particular." I goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you were black. What's going on now over in England?" And at the time, there was lots of race riots going on. This is like early 80s. And he goes, "People, they don't want you in this country. They don't like you. Like, they don't like us. We're the Catholics over here. You know, we don't want to be part. Why are you doing this for the British government?" And you know, it actually got me thinking a bit to myself, because I felt safe when I was in the military, because you're a band of brothers, you're all working together. But I used to not feel as safe when I went back home on leave, back to Stoke-on-Trent, because this was a time when the groups like the National Front were all marching about, which is like a extreme far-right a movement. What didn't want any blacks in the country, you know. They were, if you was a person like me or an ethnic person, they just didn't want you in the country. They like, send him back. I'm like, where do I go back? What do you mean? This is my country. I'm a British soldier. I'm fighting for my country, or, you know, I'm willing to die for my country. So I used to hate it when I go back to my own town and you see these gangs of National Front doing marches with the Union Jack wrapped around them. I'm like, that's my flag. That's my flag. What's on the barracks every morning? I salute that flag. And to me, it was, how dare you have that flag represent you? It doesn't represent you in any way. I mean, me or you in any way. That shouldn't be used to the extreme far right. Back then, it was really, you know, there was writing on the wall, there was NF everywhere, and there was lots of racist singing going on when they were marching. It was really bad, you know. For instance, I remember it was Christmas Eve, we got our house broken, and it was all NF all over the walls, and they spoilt the turkey and ripped up all the presents and all that. So, and I must have been about 6 years old, but that sticks in my mind because I remember my dad from then, for months on, he just slept with a knife downstairs, hoping that it would happen again. You know what I mean? And I felt sorry, well, I didn't. I knew anybody who'd come in the house, oh, that would be it, yeah. It's my country, my flag. You know, I fought for it and nearly died for it on many occasions. And anybody who's in this country or is a citizen of this country should be willing to defend the country and, if need be, die for the country and fight for it. Okay, so to me, there's no way is this a racist flag, or it doesn't represent, sort of say, the extreme far right. It represents everybody who's in this country. And it bothers me because you've got like a young black kid growing up and he's like looking at that flag thinking, hang on, should I be supporting that flag? Because does it represent the extreme far right? Does it represent colonialism? It doesn't represent me. And I say, don't be stupid. It represents everybody who's in this country. Everybody needs to get behind that flag. Don't let anybody take it away from us, the extreme far right, the extreme far left. To me, you're a British citizen, you live in this country, you'd be willing to die for this country, you know what I mean? And people don't realise how lucky they are to live in a country like ours. People moan, but it's first world problems, you know what I mean? We moan about such minor problems. And if you've seen areas and been in areas where I've been and a lot of other people, then that is really something to moan about. Once I'd done my second tour of Ireland, which was in 1989, and in 1990 we was over Germany and the first Gulf War come about. So I was a corporal in charge of altogether something like 11 of us, including myself. When you got to the Gulf War, that was a full-on war. You know, it was tanks and it was a full-on armoured infantry war. And you know, we did the first armoured infantry attack since the Second World War. And to me though, I wasn't so much worried or scared because I was in charge of guys. And you felt like you was a lot older than what you were. What was I? I was about 25 and then 26 by the time it was over. And you've got guys who were in your vehicle and you were in charge of, and they were 18, 19, most of them. You can sense fear because you're all in the back of a vehicle and the vehicle stunk, and it didn't just smell of the normal sweat. It's a bit different when I think the pause were breathing out like fear, you know what I mean? And you can see it in people's faces and eyes, especially when there's bombardments going off and your vehicle is actually shaking because of the thunder of the bombardments, and you're like, God Almighty. Unfortunately, we did have people killed on the attacks, and I saw that happen, and that was, you know, when you see it happen in front of you, that was like the first proper combat I'd been in. Yeah. You don't think about it at the time, it's just that afterwards, and you think, right, such young guys and getting shot or getting blown up and RPGs in them and that.
They fled along the road to Basra, now better known as the Highway of Death.
We actually stopped on the Basra road, and this was like a 6-lane highway. This was in the first Iraq War, and we were told not to move from this area. But you were just on this area, and it was just like one of these horror scenes, because all these cars have been burnt out, while most of them have had. Some of them haven't been burnt out. So I remember getting on a bus full of people who'd all been shot up, the dead and, you know, dead Iraqi soldiers. And you saw some really weird things, you know. I always remember this dog, and it's just carrying an arm in its mouth. But rigor mortis hadn't set in, the hand was still moving. So it was as if it was waving to you. Oh my God, look at that. And it's just, yeah, it's quite a surreal environment to be in, and obviously a smelly environment, and just the smell of death. And because the difference is when you're further away, or you're in the vehicle firing, or you're just getting out the vehicle and firing, if you shoot somebody from far distance, or even, especially at night time, you've got a scope on them, you just see a target go down. And it can be like a computer game, you don't see the aftermath. But then staying with the aftermath, you can't get any more close up than that. My missus, when I first met her, and then lots of other people, they don't realise how much tea you drink, because being in the military, it's always a brew. You stop and it's like knock up a brew. And the brew is, you've got like a litre bottle, and then you have an half litre mug as well, what goes on the bottom of the bottle. And you can brew up in it, a tin mug. So you fill them up all the time, so you get used to having a massive brew, you know what I mean? And it's brew after brew. It's not food, it's just like get a brew on. Even in the firefight, when you've been in battle, really? Serious, people just start getting a brew on.
You guys are making
brews, yeah. And they've got like, I actually had a mug, I'll show you one of the mugs. I got one of we all had these mugs, and it's when we went behind enemy lines and we were stuck out, and it's freezing cold desert. So in the daytime, just before it got dark, and like you make hot water, make a brew, and you put them in here, and it keep warm, you know, for that night, and you could just sip the brew going along in the vehicle. It was great when after you've been in a contact, first thing you pass around is the brew. Well, I'll tell you the truth, I didn't know much about the SAS at all. Where this was in the early 80s when I first wanted to go for it. And what really made me go for it, I remember seeing some SAS guys on a course. I'm like, wow, and they just seemed different. And then we had this officer come to us, and he was from the SAS. He was just something different than the normal officers who were in charge. It was him who actually, what I looked up to so much. So I was going to put in for the SAS, and I remember some guy coming back from the SAS course telling me I couldn't go for it. And I goes, why is that? And he goes, because you're black. I goes, what's that got to do with it? He goes, oh yeah, they're all undercover in Ireland. They have to sit in the pubs and get information. I thought, okay, yeah, I would have stuck out in Ireland, especially back then. There wasn't many black people living in Ireland. So I thought, no, I can't go for it. So I never did. This major came back, this SAS guy, but he wasn't with my company. He went to a different company. And he saw me and he goes, I thought you'd go for the SAS by now. I said I would, and I told him the reason. He goes, well, why haven't you tried to put in for it? I goes, well, I can't, because of being black. And he just started laughing at me. I was the second ever guy from my unit get in the SAS. Many people went for it, but they come back with horror stories. So I just went in blind, so yeah, and I got in. It's arguably the most toughest course, military toughest course in the world. You push to your physical limits, and you nearly, you know, you're nearly on breaking point. But then after that, they don't really even know your name. You do a month or 3 weeks to a month of going over the hills and pushing yourself, carrying the weights going up. You don't know how far you got to go and all the rest of it. And it's afterwards then when you start the jungle phase, because then that's in some points it's just as hard, because you get to the jungle, you're working and tabbing there all day, and everything in the jungle just wants to bite you, stab you, sting you, and you have so many weeks in the jungle, but you watch continuously. You know, you have an instructor for about 4 of you, so you're continuously being watched, and it's just such an odd environment working. You're stinking, and everyone's got beards and everything, because you're not allowed shave, because if you cut yourself in the jungle, because of the climate, the humidity, you know, it'll take a long time to heal, or it won't heal. So, yeah, but that's where they're testing and see if you're a soldier. And yeah, by the time we finished the jungle, there was only not very, very few of us left. And then, to me, I think I went on to the hardest part, which was the resistance interrogation, where it's all right being pushed to your physical limits, but it's when you get pushed to your mental limits, they try to break your mind, and that is so difficult, going without food for so many days and nights, you know, and you're being hunted and being run down, and you're still going over the mountains, and you've got no equipment with you, and then if you get caught, you get beasted, and then you're back out there again. And so by the time they capture you after so many days and nights, a fair few, and you've had no food in you or anything, you're completely drained and worn out. And then to go into interrogation for a long, long time, and you've got white noise, and you've got blindfolds on, you've got remember cover stories or remember what they've told you and so on. I remember this guy, he was talking to me, and he had like a Canadian accent. I don't know if he's from Canada, he's a professional interrogator, but he starts talking to me. Then he went down in this drool, really slow talk, and he was putting me to sleep. I'm like, oh. And he said, right, you've told me this, you've told me that. And I'd wake up and I think, have I? I remember just looking, like I'm looking at you now, looking at this interrogator. And as I'm looking at him, his head just turned to Mickey Mouse. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm talking to Mickey Mouse here. I'm talking to a big mouse, for fuck's sake. But that's how your mind goes. Yeah. And then so to be able then keep to the what you've been told, it's extremely difficult. It really is.
Who's there?
I remember the training major, he got his berries and he just went, chucked down, you're going to D squadron, such and such, you two are going B squadron, you are going, and that was it, you know. And he said, right, enjoy your time, it'll go in a flash. I remember thinking, well, I've got at least 12 years left, if not longer. And then he said, make sure you beat the clock. And I didn't know what he was on about. And I asked somebody, I goes, what was he on about, beating the clock? And we have a clock tower, and there's hardly been a year since the SAS was formed. There's only hardly ever been a year that nobody's had the name on that tower, because you get your name on the clock tower if you die on operations or if you die in training. But yeah, that's what he means by beating the clock, so I beat the clock. If you can keep on driving forward and keep on saying, right, I can do this, you will do it, even if it's taking another attempt. And that's why, even forgetting the SAS, if people get injured or they might fail and say, right, you just aren't good enough, then come back, get a bit more training and give it a go again. And then you have to do the course again. And people have got in, many have got in on a second attempt. The vast majority of people, I'd say 90%, do what's known as VW, which is volunteer withdrawal. At any time on that course, you can just say, right, I've had enough. Not even get out of your bed in the jungle or your hammock, you can just lie there and think, no, I've had enough. When the helicopter comes in for the next resupply, I'm going to get on that helicopter and have a few days on the beach, then go back to my unit. There's no shame in it, because then you go back to your unit, everybody will give you respect because you've gone for the toughest course in the world. You know what I mean? But what you have done, you volunteered withdrawal. So you'll never be allowed back on that course, because you can't just say, right, I've had enough. When you're behind enemy lines or you're on an operation or you're in combat, you can't just say, right, I don't want any of this now. You know what I mean? You can't be an empty suitcase when you're in a 4-man patrol. You can't carry anybody. Everybody's got put in 110%. They've got, you know, you've got all be part of that cog. You know, if you fit and your body's still going, it's in the mind. You can still do it. You think you're putting 100%, you can't do anymore. You can keep on trudging on. And it's like, I've seen it like when I was on the selection course. You think you've come to the end and they tell you you're coming to the end and you jump on a vehicle and suddenly stop. No, we're going to go all night and then all next day. And then you see people just say, oh, I've had enough. Because they've seen that end. And then when it's taken away from them, you've got to carry on, you've got to keep going. They think they can't, but they can. 100% you can push your body more than what you think. And also your mind, you can, but it's in there, you know, just be determined to do it. Say, right, set yourself the goal, I'm going to get up and train tomorrow and do it. Don't let anything stop you. You know, if you can't do it in the morning, do it after work at night, do it in the middle of the night. I've done stuff like that, really in the middle of the night with an head torch, like at 4 o'clock in the morning. I saying, are you crazy? I'm like, no, I won't get something done. Sometimes you do feel down, but to me, as long as you wake up, you're like, right, I'm up, I'm alive. Let's do something. You know, I want to do something in this day. You know, whether that's training or getting yourself out and doing something in society, getting yourself to the gym, giving a talk, whatever it is. Do something, push yourself. as well. Everybody's going to go through at some point in life where they're going to face financial problems. I've gone from having a bit of money to completely debt, 50 grand in debt, and nothing, serious. So financial problems, emotional problems, you know, divorce, not having a break up from a girlfriend, or other emotional problems, psychological problems, your mind can start going, physical problems, get injured, or people in your family getting medical problems and so on. Everybody's going to face all these physical problems, financial problems, economic problems, emotional problems. It's all just part of life. It's a hurdle of life. You're just going to get it. And you've got to just be resilient to say, right, this is just a passage of time. I'm going to build up from this. I'm going to carry on. And you've got to carry on. What else do you do? You know what I mean? And to me, it's having that mentality that there is going to be problems. Everybody's going to face grief at some time or another. And it's very difficult. You know, it tests people in different ways, but it's all part of us, and you've got to build each other up.
Just a quick interruption for the video, guys. As many of you know, we are independent creators and filmmakers, but there is a massive attack on us right now. Traditional media over the last few years has started to slowly die. They are no longer the independent voice that you first thought they were. That's why we've created Mulligan Brothers Patreon. We've built something special for our most dedicated supporters, and I want to break it down for you real quick. The supporter tier gets you ad-free early access to both video and audio versions of Mulligan Brothers interviews 24 hours before it goes public. The executive tier gets you everything that a supporter tier gets, plus more. Exclusive interviews and behind the scenes content, walk and talks, daily routines, unreleased interviews, the stuff that you don't see anywhere else. And finally, the executive producer tier. Everything from the supporter tier and the executive tier, plus exclusive perks. Access to our treatment packages. Be the first to see which guests are coming up and get insight into the topics we'll be discussing before anyone else. And you'll even get an executive producer credit on every single documentary that we make. So if you've ever wanted to support the Mulligan Brothers mission of inspiring change so we can go around the world and get these stories that nobody else will, this is exactly how you do it. Go to patreon.com/MulliganBrothers or click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. Join the community and help us inspire change.
This is my, I won't say office, it's my playroom, you know what I mean? This is my room. And I'm packing my kit now because this is all the old original Second World War kit. British parachute kit, paratroops. My unit was the Staffordshire Regiment, the original unit, and they went into Arnhem in gliders and landed on Arnhem. So I've got the old smock, they weigh quite a bit, the old helmet. And look at these bad boys, hey? Well, they are massive, but yeah, that's what they wore. And so when these are wet, they're really heavy and they're really uncomfortable. And yeah.
Who's there?
That's me, but the other guys.
Oh, yeah.
That was 94. And then long joined there. You know, this is when I was based in Chester, 1993, just before going to the SAS. So, in the Science Mess, Tactics Wing, and then Brecon. I did my junior Brecon for Get My Corporal. When was this? In 1985. Yeah, so as a young lad, very young lad. I've got lots of bits and bobs, but I won't show all of it. This is different forces medals and escape maps, you know, if you ever got caught. So when I went to war, it's got different languages on, you know, this was in on your person, and you can't rip it or anything, so you can just escape with it. And I always had a bit of my wife's hair. That's off a red as well. So yeah, I had a bit of my wife's hair there, so I took that to war with me. So you always had like a part of you. It's amazing, isn't it? I know, I don't believe in superstition, but in a way I do. And then from the First Gulf War, I had one of my kids' baby teeth in there. And it's still in there, a tooth is. Yeah, so that was wrapped up with me. I don't know. I just had little things where, to me, even though I'm not superstitious, but I had little good luck charms. I thought, right, this is with me. And then, or if you die, at least then you've got, you know, if I would have died, I've got my family with me. I've got my wife's there with me. That's a bit crazy, isn't it? I've never told anybody else that, but that was me, yeah. This is the different squadrons. That's like different. We've all got our own badges for each squadron in the SAS. That's A squadron. B, the best squadron, which was D squadron. Obviously my squadron. G squadron, and they're the 4 squadrons, and then obviously just the SAS badge.
Is this you? These your trophies up here?
Yeah, the old boxing trophies. Yeah, when I used to box a lot when I was in my first unit. And to me, boxing, it's as close as you can get into going to, you know, a proper battle, because that nervous energy just before you go into a ring, and you know, when there's boxing, I'd have like everybody from my unit. You got like nearly 1,000 people when you're over in Germany, because there's more people in there because of a mechanised unit, and they all know you and know your name, and then you got 1,000 blokes like from a Scottish regiment, and they come in on bagpipes, we come in with the drums, and it's like, I remember, I still get goose pimples now. Yeah, the hairs on your arms coming up, even though it was free. There was only 3 2-minute rounds, but they were full on. Everybody wanted blood, so it was less skill and more just battling. Yeah, so to me, 2 boxers, 2 people going in combat together, they're all like gladiators. It takes a lot of balls actually to get in the ring. In the SAS, you haven't got time for any bullshit really. So there's no marching, there's no saluting, there's no calling people sir. Everybody knows each other by the first name, and you're just responsible for your own actions. You get given that much responsibility as an individual and as a team. You know, you can be sent off somewhere as an individual, or just 2 of you sometimes, and the job you've got to do is massive. It can be at strategic level, you know what I mean? And you're doing such important jobs, you know, and you think, wow, sense, So it's all self-discipline, and that's massive in the regiment. I remember I've not long got there, and this taught me a lesson. We were doing this tactical landing site where you bring in aeroplanes on just so many lights. And I remember having my weapon and all my battle kit there, and I remember this officer coming around, and he come, right, quick, it's coming in early, the flights. And he had so many people on the vehicle, and he went, right, jump in the vehicle now. I goes, yeah, my kit's just here. He goes, no, just leave it. I'm like, I'm not going to jump. He goes, these other people there look after you, just jump on. You've got your radio and your torch. I goes, yeah. He goes, get on. I'm thinking, I don't like this. Anyway, I get to the area where we're bringing in this plane, you know, a C-130, and it was just dark then, just getting dark, and then it was dark. So all we had to do is put the light on. So I'm at the front area, and my mate is across the runway, the makeshift runway, and now it's complete darkness, you know what I mean? So I've got a light, and then so many 100 meters, there's another light, and another light. So there's, say, 6 of us on this runway, and the plane can come in, all in complete darkness, apart from these infrared lights. But then all I heard is, in the side, was this growling. And it's like, I'm like, fuck. I haven't got my weapon on me. Whatever. I had a Leatherman knife, like a pen knife. I remember opening that, thinking, God, what do I do? Run? What is it? Do I try to get up a tree? And it was making like an eerie crashing. But then now this plane's getting ready to come in. With the ambient light, you could see all this tinned. I just saw this big pair of eyes, like glowing, and it was some sort of, I don't know what, it was some big cat. You know what I mean? And yeah, because it come in the clearing, I'm like, fuck. And then it went across. And then the plane's coming in, and the noise made it just shoot off it just then. And the plane landed, and that was it. And my mate goes, okay, now, you know, I could have been eating there. What was it? It was some big cat, and there's me with a Leatherman and a torch. What can I do? But that taught me a lesson then. I thought, I'll never ever, it doesn't matter who orders me, and this is like my boss. I'm not going anywhere without my rifle. Well, this is when people used to collect photos and all that sort of stuff here. That was with my old unit. This is in Germany. This is 1995, 96. No, look at that. This is 1994. I was about 19, how old was it? 19 years old. I've got it all here. Waiting for an helicopter in South Omar, 19 years old.
You know, there's some photos of you pretty jacked and pretty ripped when you were serving. And there's also another photo
of, I don't know if it was in the forest or in the jungle or something, but you've like created a pull-up bar on some trees. What were the like weird and wonderful ways you'd get workouts done when you were serving?
Yeah, you know, I was at the peak of my fitness when I was in the SAS, but I'd always have to want to do some training. We could be on a training exercise, say in the middle of the desert, and then once we finished the day, I would still be lifting up jerry cans, fuel cans, and so would others. Not everyone, but I was always that minded. I'm like, I've got to still push myself. I've still got something in the tank. I want to do something physical. I've never got a running. And I remember one time, I'll tell you something funny. We were doing all our drills and training, and then we just sort of popped up for the night in this area. They had like safaris around the area, and we were just camping out, you know, by the military vehicles. It was just an exercise. And I goes, I fancy a run, and my mate fancied a run again. We've been sitting in vehicles all day. So I goes, let's go for a run. And we started running through the jungle, and like there was safaris and that, like a safari park there. I mean, camping area there or wherever. I mean, some huts and that, you know, where people go. And I was jogging, and I ended up jogging through a little track through the forest, and then we carried on jogging. Thought, right, I know the area back now, let's go back. And we came back, and next minute, across this little track where we went through, all these baboons come across with their kids. And I swear, it stood up this big baboon. I'm like, from me to just a few meters away, and he was screaming at me, and they see the teeth on him. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, what a dickhead. And then all the littlings, all these kids all went across, and then he went across. Me and my mate looked at each other. We didn't tell anybody about that. We thought, shit, we could have been ripped apart here. That's my unit. I was a sergeant just before going to the SAS. But what I recall from here is then Lally, he hung himself, Flax, he.
Do you speak about this?
There's Flax. He hung himself. He was with me in my group. He hung himself. He went crazy. Well, not crazy. He's just really mentally in a bad way, you know. It's cost him everything, his marriage and everything. Yeah, killed himself. There's another guy who killed himself as well. He's dead now. He didn't kill himself, but he's dead. But just looking at this, just that small group there, you think, right, he has completely lost it. He killed himself. And I've lost touch with a lot of these lads. But yeah, so if you mirror that in the military, throughout normal military, it just shows how many people have committed suicide and have had problems. The stuff you put at the back of your mind, after a bit, it mounts up, and before you know it, you're going to have that many bad memories there and you don't want to talk about. Then they can explode. This is the way I think about it, or implode, you know what I mean? You've got to let them memories out. It's like, somebody said, it's like having an open cut. And if you put a cut inside your coat, you know, or you just keep it covered all the time, it will fester for longer. It won't take longer to heal. Whereas if you have an open cut and lay it out in the open, the fresh air, it heals faster. And that's the way, if you can sort of understand life like that. And so it's true. And years ago, people didn't talk about stuff, mental health and that. So I think, especially when I joined the military, nobody did. So it's good that people are talking more. It doesn't mean you're pussies or anything. It's true, because I've known that many people who've committed suicide and who've had problems. You think, God almighty, why? So the least people, last person on earth, sometimes you think would do something like that. But it can affect people. It could be something emotionally, it could be financial problem. You know, we all know it. And if just it meant talking about it, just seeing them, asking people how they're doing, if that could have helped them, God. And sometimes you think to yourself, did I notice, did I miss something? You know? Maybe if it was picked up sooner by a friend or somebody and he talked about it, they could have got that out of them. Okay, Reggie, come on. Reggie. Call him Reggie because it's after the regiment. I was going to call him Sterling after David Sterling, but my missus wasn't having any, and Reggie suits him, you know what I mean? So he's my Reggie, come on. He just, obviously he's a pup, so you can only train him so much. You don't overwalk him because they're developing. But he just wants to go out all the time. So when he's older, he's going to be up the mountains with me and everything, you know what I mean? He'd be camping with me. It's brilliant. And I think it's so good for people's mental health as well as physical health. To me, he's just like, it's everything. He's so loyal. And, you know, if you're getting up and you feel a bit down, as soon as you look at your dog, how can you? You know what I mean? It just picks you up, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
And they're there waiting for you. Come on, mate. And it gets you out the house. Not as if I need a dog, but it's great. Reggie, sit. Poor. Good lad. Good lad. To me, it's the best thing what's happened. I've never had a dog before.
Yeah.
And he's so, therapeutic. Is it therapeutic? He's a Valco dog. As soon as you move, he's stuck to you. What's this? Come on, come on. For me, I just do my own thing. I do events. I've got to do some speaking events.
Yeah.
There's a lot of military units who ask me. I don't advertise it. So I just go across and just talk about being resilient and what it means to me, and just go through your career, because obviously a lot of military guys, especially recruits, are interested in that.
Yeah, 100%.
And then just talk about being resilient and leadership and stuff like that. Say David Sterling's ethos is classlessness, humility, integrity, pursuit of excellence, and a sense of humour. And that ethos, if you think about it, classlessness, that means you can work with anybody. It doesn't matter if you work in McDonald's. Not wrong with working at McDonald's. I like the chips and burgers, but you know what I mean? But it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you've got that same ethos, you think about it, them 5 things, it's brilliant. Classlessness. I don't care who you are, what nationality, what country, what religion, we all get on. Whether you're rich, poor, we all get on. It doesn't matter, yeah? So that's classlessness in my opinion. Humility. Nobody likes somebody's a big at it. Just don't be arrogant. Just get on and be a good person. Humility speaks for itself. It doesn't matter if you're a Formula 1 racing driver or in the SAS, or if you're a cleaner or whatever. Classlessness and humility is massive. Integrity. Nobody likes a liar. I prefer to have a thief than a liar, because you can't trust that liar. Trust is everything. If you lie, the trust is gone. You've broken trust, that's it. Whether in the SAS or not, or whatever job. So classlessness, humility, integrity, pursuit of excellence. I don't care what it is. Like I said before, you can do it better next time. Whether that's, if you're cleaning something, just do a good job of it. Pick up everything. It doesn't matter if you're in the SAS or whatever job you're doing, do the best. If you were flipping burgers at McDonald's, stop flipping them faster and better. You know, and just could do the job better each day. Think of which ways I can do the job better or go faster, you know? And you pursuing excellence, you'll get noticed. Don't just ever sit back on your laurels. And then family, a sense of humour, and you've got to have a sense of humour in life. Nobody likes working with people who are just, there's no humour. And just let's get on with life and have a laugh. And even if that's just smiling, if believe it or not, if I go for a run, I say hello to everyone. You know, good morning. Sometimes they look at you as if you're crazy or scared or whatever. And then if they do, I don't bother, that's them. They might be thinking of something else. They might have, you know, have other problems. But to me, it's like good morning. But you'd be surprised how many people then, whoa, good morning back, or somebody smiles at you. And just you could pick that person up for the day just by smiling at the person and just saying, how are you doing? And you don't know what's going on in their life, what sort of day or night they've had, do you? So it's just that. So the sense of humour is massive. And that ethos, I would say, within that, you throw in something like respect and self-discipline, and then you've got everything, haven't you? Well, as far as I'm concerned, if you live life by that, you can't go wrong. You've got to do something completely outside your comfort zone. Whether that's doing an half marathon, whether it's doing a challenge. There's lots of these events going on. I do events with my mate, you know, taking through these different challenges. And you'd be surprised what you can do, but you've got to challenge yourself. You know, you've got a lot of people don't do stuff because it's going to be hard. No, you want to do it because it's hard. If it's easy, why do it? You've got to challenge yourself physically and mentally, you know. I don't care what. I know where I'm losing out on. I need to start reading more books and that. I keep on, because I go on holiday and I take the same book with me all the time, but I need to be a bit more of that side. But you just got to do something. Get out there, do something. That will build you up, and just having that self-discipline is getting off your arse and doing it. And the hardest part is starting it. Once you do it, you know, you'll get used to it, and before you know it, that builds consistency, and you'll feel, and that builds growth, and you'll just feel not right if you don't do something, and go for the next challenge, go for the next challenge. We're human beings, don't just sit back and say, right, okay, I've made all this money, I've had a good job, but what really have I done in life? How much have I pushed myself? How much can I say to my kids growing up, right, you can do this, I can prove you can do this. And it's also capturing the youth, you know what I mean? Because I've that many friends as well when I've grown up who got in trouble by the police and you know, did burglary or whatever, and they wanted me to go out and just keep a lookout with them and stuff like that, and there's no way I would, because if it was my dad, he would have killed me for one start, and two, I don't think it was right. And I'm so glad, because sometimes you see them with all this money and that going down one line, but at the end of the day they all got caught, and eventually they had a criminal record, and that's on there. That stopped them then achieving things in life, you know what I mean? So it's trying to capture the youth, and even though people who say done minor crime, I say minor crime because I do believe crime should be punished properly, but minor crime, and then try to get them on the straight and narrow, you know what I mean? The young people do stupid things. I've done a lot of stupid things when I was a kid. Tell them, right, I've come from a bad background, I've done a fighting background, I've done stuff in the past I'm not proud of. But it's so easy getting the money by going down that bad road, you know, maybe selling drugs or whatever it is. Then it's right, no, I'm not going to get involved in that gang. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do the right thing. It's going to be harder work. Maybe not have as much money as them, but I'm going to do the right way and do a challenge and do something what's going to better my life and make my family proud. You can either go down the easy way or the hard way. And you've got to pick the hard way. It's hard for a reason, you know what I mean? You're going to struggle. It's going to be difficult. You aren't going to have all that what your peers have got. And it's very difficult when you're a kid. But it makes benefit later on in life. It'll all come round. I do believe in karma, and I do believe what goes round comes round. And if you work hard at whatever you want, you might not have all the money, you might not have all these galactic fancy cars and everything, but wow, I'm so glad I never took that path, because I was so tempted on many occasions. And friends were doing the bad way, and they got all the money, got all the nice gear, and there's me. And a lot of times coming back even from the military as a 16-year-old coming back on leave, and think I've got loads of money because I've saved up this money, and then, no, the grass isn't greener on the other side. I've seen it, and I've seen blokes get out of the military early, and they go with 99% of them wish they didn't. They say, I wish I stayed in, I wish I did this. And you know, yeah, one thing we're all going to do at one stage, we're all going to die, aren't we? And if you're on that bed, or when you get old and whatever, you can look back and you think, right, okay, I had all this, but, or I've done okay, or you know, I've been a good person, and I'm just done all right. I've brought up kids, and I've just, you know, I've not made millions or whatever, but I've had a good life. I've enjoyed my life. It's been hardship, but I'm here. I'm like, wow. I'm on my deathbed. I've got no regrets. I've done what I've wanted. I've lived that life, and as I said, so long as I'm comfy, my family's comfortable, I don't want any more. Just give me, you know, I'm happy now. Just get out, keeping doing my fitness. As I say, I'm out my zone doing these talks, but I enjoy doing them because it's outside my zone. So that's why I'm doing something what's outside the box, because you've got to do something what is difficult, whether that's climbing a mountain, do it, but just do it. Just split everything up. There's no task too big for you. Just take small steps at a time, one foot in front of the other, and eventually you'll get to the top of the mountain. There's no secret, but don't think that project, anything is too big for you. Just say, right, that's massive. Don't think, am I going to do this? Just right, I'm just going to do this block. Live day by day, and before you know it, you've chipped away at it. I break things up and break things down, so they say, in chunks, and just keep going. And yeah, you'll have a happy life. And what I love, like, this is quite a new, it's a new area. Well, not a new area, but this, you can see it's all new. But I like how they kept the war memorial. That was the original war memorial. So it's good, isn't it? And it gets me, every little village. Sometimes you go through a village and it's so small, you think, there's hardly anybody here. And then you read how many people have died in the First World War and Second World War, and you see like the remembrance, and you think, God almighty, where do all them people come from? There's hardly anything here, just a few farms or whatever. So it just shows you the amount of people that paid the ultimate price. So I think every village, well, every town, every village should have, pay a lot more for that. I snapped my ankle on a night jumper. I went down. On the night jump out, I went down and landed in the knoll. They had like a rabbit's hole. Obviously it was pitch black, I couldn't see it, and my foot landed in this hole. And then all I felt was a snap. I'm like, I broke that, I felt like I heard that myself, and I thought, that's broken. And I was more concerned about the boots, because I had a decent pair of boots. I didn't want, the guys were trying to cut the boot off. I was, no, don't, just be careful. I'm getting the boot off. That's it. I've got a book as well. So I'm an author, so I'm really proud of this. Never in a million years did I think I'd ever have a book. I never even thought about it, but the publishers got in touch with me, and yeah, it's doing really well.